Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Our first story is about a guy who ignored our OP because he thought he was too young to have money. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Store owner ignores me, loses huge sale. This was a few years ago. I was only 20, but had just bought my first house and needed furniture for the entire house. I went to buy a crap ton of furniture for the mostly empty house. I'm not big on shopping, so I chose a place close by and was going to buy everything possible from one place. The first store had 2 employees and they ignored me, one being the manager. Honestly, I'd rather browse in peace, and while I couldn't hear what they were saying, I got the feeling they thought I was just looking around and probably had no money being so young. I finally walked over to the manager and he seemed a little annoyed. I noticed his name tag and it was the same as the store. So the owner, turns out. I was the only customer in the place. What an idiot. He quotes me a price on a piece of furniture and it was expensive but in my budget. He then made a snarky comment. Something along the lines of betting I wished I could get furniture like that. I was already well on my way to quietly leaving his rude store and going to my second choice, a store across town. Screw being quiet, I told him I just bought a house and was there to buy furniture to fill that house today. His demeanor perked up and was suddenly very interested in me. I told him I hadn't appreciated being ignored and that I knew why he hadn't bothered to even say hello to me. I asked him for directions to his competitor. He was apologetic as I walked out, knowing he'd missed out on several thousands of dollars in sales. And our second story. So long, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Years ago, I worked in guest services for a large hotel company. We handled everything from basic reservations to I sent my kids into the room first and there was a couple in there already, and now I have to explain to my children what sex is. But that's a story for another time. A little over half of our properties were franchises, which means that in exchange for the prestige of our name and our global booking system, you had to operate according to several strict rules. A whole book of them, in fact. In our office, we enforced the rules, and if your franchise didn't meet muster, we could refund your guest cost and bill it to you. Goodbye revenue, hello meeting with standards enforcement. Because our end of the operation was given a lot of power to resolve guest complaints, our office's practices are also written into the franchise agreement. Therefore, we had extensive classroom training, as well as hands-on training once the classroom was finished. We required that anyone who contacted us received a letter to confirm the resolution of the letter, and letter writing was therefore a skill we tested for in the interview process. Not that it mattered all that much, because we had form letters for most contingencies, and you could edit them to fit the specifics of a given situation. Also, most of our busy season hires were college kids working a summer job and to make money for school. Of course, every job gets a few rotten apples. One of ours was a special case who all called Deeds. Deeds had a classic case of mine excrement doth not have an odor, coupled with the best example of the Dunning-Kruger effect I've ever seen firsthand in my life. Because I was a senior representative in the department with proven writing skills, I'd get to proofread the letters that the newbies were sending out. If approved, they could be sent. If not, corrections would be written in purple ink and returned to the employee's inbox. Deeds never got off the proofreading list, but it was noticed that he was closing out his cases with a letter anyway, with the added benefit of not faxing the resolution to the hotel GM/owner. One of these made its way to the CEO, and that's when crap hit the fan for Deeds. The letter that had him on the carpet said, "Dear customer, it's your own fault that you didn't understand how hotels work. Sincerely, Deeds." This was sent to one of our loyalty program customers who spent over 300 nights a year in hotels. Not your everyday stupid, Mr. Deeds. After begging for his job with the department manager and HR manager, he was placed on an instant final warning and probation for 6 months. I got the fortunate job of being his mentor. I had to sign off on everything he did before he could do it. Effectively, this had me doing 2 jobs. The joys of being a responsible employee, am I right? Eventually, he seemed to straighten up and his parole ended. Immediately, he started to F things up, though. At this point, he'd switched to a night shift, so I never saw him, but I was kept in the loop on his misdeeds, because he was my broken toy for so long. Almost every day, he would bully a night desk clerk into breaking the rules because he didn't want to explain the rules to a whiny customer, or he would unilaterally decide to refund money for something we didn't cover. Like a $100 check because the poor guest had to wait in long lines at Disneyland during Halloween, or making the front desk pay to order a dozen pizzas because the hotel's outdoor pool was closed on Christmas. Those of us on the day shift would get angry calls from general managers and owners, and we would have to arrange to get billed for these outrageous expenses. Needless to say, this ate into our meager budget for non-billable goodwill payments, and management was PO'd. The department manager stayed late one night, read him the riot act, and told him he had to stay strictly within guidelines. If it wasn't in the franchise agreement book, then he couldn't get the poor sap at the hotel to read the required action on page XX, then he couldn't do it. Last chance. Next mistake, and you're out, buddy. Deeds realized we all hated him and started looking for greener pastures. He thought we were friends because of my 6 months of hell trying to get him to follow the rules, so he came to me for advice on how to interview for a management position at a hotel. Hotels loved hiring from our office because we knew the rule book inside and out. We were so jaded by strange customers that nothing fazed us. I saw an opportunity and gave him everything my fevered brain could devise to get him gone. He shortly got a job at a hotel in Florida, gave us his notice, and spent his days bragging about how when he was at the hotel, he'd be calling us suckers all the time to make us do his work for him. He was so proud that he was going to get to live on site for up to a year so he could save on rent, too. He basically stopped doing the job we were paying him for, but instead of discipline, we all decided it was better to let him slack than make someone else fix his mistakes. Soon he was gone, and an exception was made to give him employee discount cards from our stock so he could stay at a couple of hotels on his drive from Salt Lake City to Florida. On his first night as a guest at a hotel, he tried to get the desk clerk to upgrade him to a bridal suite, but effed up in two ways. First, he demanded it instead of politely asking for it, and second, it was the GM filling in for his night auditor who was sick. The GM called in to verify employment, and one of the night supervisors gave him the rundown on Mr. Deeds, then had him hand the phone over to Deeds and told him under no uncertain terms to be a good little boy, go to his room, not to bother staff, and check out early. The GM was on board with this, so the rest of the night was uneventful. The next night, Deeds pulled the exact same crap at the next hotel. Again, the GM was filling in, but he wasn't as easy as the first time. He called as angry as a horny sailor who just returned from submarine and could not find girls of easy virtue. Livid, our good GM was. He demanded Deeds be fired for bullying him and his desk clerk, and when told he only had the employee discount card so we could get rid of him, he demanded we take action. We assured him that the appropriate steps would be taken. We'll call the night supervisor Steve. Steve left a massive email and supporting fact statements from both hotels' managers for our manager, who we'll call Jamie. Jamie called both hotels early the next morning, having read the email about 3 a.m. when she got up to take meds for her multiple sclerosis. She was in the office 2 hours before we opened so she could call both hotels and discuss things with the managers. Then when the rest of us arrived, she had every employee on staff that morning take some time and write up every bad experience we ever had with dumb old Deeds. Then she faxed it all to the owner of the hotel where he'd just got a new job, called the desk to see when the owner would be in, took a nap until said time, then called the owner back to outline the situation and suggest they call the other two hotels for first-hand discussions before making a decision. When Deeds rolled up in his U-Haul, the owner was waiting with 2 security guards, a restraining order barring him from the property. Her uncle was a judge and did a favor for family, a pile of documentation about his terrible behavior, and a notified letter rescinding his offer of employment. So here was Deeds, 2,000 miles from friends and family with no job, no home, and no sympathy. And our last story. A-hat manager gets what's coming to him. A while ago, I was under a supervisor that was clearly incompetent. He was dangerous to work with, completely lacked the necessary knowledge, abusive to clients, and very abusive to those under his supervision. None of us has even the slightest respect for him. Everyone on the crew at one time or another had a major blow-up with him. He was known for throwing things and had nearly killed a few people due to his negligent incompetence. Finally, one day, he began to scream at me over something hilariously petty, and I lost my crap. I got in his face and told him exactly what a useless piece of crap he was, going so far as to say your mother could have flushed you down the toilet and made the world a better place. Not one of my proudest moments. It was extremely unprofessional of me. I gave him my badge and told him I quit. Find someone else to exercise your sick need to be abusive and cruel. I'm not the guy. I went out to my car, called HR, and let them know I was leaving the company because I don't come to work just to be abused. I care about being a good employee. I want to do an excellent job, and I am completely open to critique. I want to learn and take responsibility for my mistakes, but I don't deserve to be abused. The HR rep offered me administrative leave while they do an investigation. I accepted, but made it clear that if my supervisor stayed, that I would absolutely not be returning regardless of the circumstances. Fortunately, the supervisor above the one that I lost my crap on, the person that usually put his own job on the line to protect my supervisor, was on vacation. Everyone else on the crew backed me up and ratted our supervisor out on all his extreme bullcrap. A week and a half later, I received a call from the regional manager. I was informed that I could come back to work on the upcoming Monday and that my supervisor would not be returning. I accepted and returned to work. They gave me full pay for the time I was gone. I actually got paid to stay home, looking for jobs and play video games. It was pretty sweet justice. I received, deservedly so, a letter of reprimand due to my language and inappropriate statements. Worth it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.